Good morning. My name is Gene Chan, Hearing Officer for San Francisco Public Works. Maribel Hanson is the clerk of this hearing. This hearing is being recorded via Zoom and will be available afterwards through a link on the San Francisco Public Works website, sfpublicworks.org. As this is a virtual hearing, there is no sign-in sheet, so if you would like to receive information about the hearing, please send an email to the email address listed on the hearing notice. This public hearing is being held to consider two items. Order number 210584 to consider notice of violation number 20560. The violation is for excavating without a permit at 200 Folsom Street. Order number 210623 to consider the Mission Rock project, 3rd Street and Mission Rock Street, final map PID 9443. Request to defer certain scopes of work beyond notice of completion. Request extension of time to complete improvements under Phase 1, Public Improvement Agreement. And request corresponding exceptions to subdivision code, subdivision regulations, and tentative map conditions of approval. My job as the hearing officer is to gather the facts for the hearing items, listen to your testimonies, and help our Director of Public Works make determination. I will not be making any decisions today. Instead, I will forward the findings from this hearing and make my recommendations to the Director. The Director will make the final determinations. When the Director's determinations are made, the department will notify you of them if you have provided contact information. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will ask Public Works staff to speak first and present the case. There is no time limit for this presentation. Then I will allow the property owner or appellant to speak, then any member of the public or witness who wants to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will monitor for the time for all speakers and will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds left. If you are a party to this proceeding, I will call on you to speak. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You will then have the standard 3 minutes to provide your comments. If you're a member of the public or a witness who wants to speak, wait for me to call for public comments, then use Zoom's raise your hand feature if you're on a computer to put yourself in the queue to speak. If you are dialing in on your phone, dial *9, indicate you're raising your hand. When it is your turn to speak, I will recognize you. If on your phone, then you're muted, press *6 to unmute yourself. If you would like to use visual materials in your presentation, please let me know before you speak. You'll have the standard 3 minutes. Comments and questions should be addressed to me and not to the department or applicant. If you cannot finish your comments within the allotted time, you may submit written testimony to me by the end of this hearing. If I feel that a question is warranted, I will ask the question. After all comments are completed, I will close the item. We will now begin the hearing. At this time, we will open the hearing to public comments. Members of the public may make comments on matters that are within the department's jurisdiction, but not on today's agenda. Are there any public comments at this time? Okay, if there are no, I don't see any hands raised.
No public comment.
No public comments. I will close this item. Public comments is closed. First item on the agenda is hearing order 210584. May I have Public Works make its presentation?
Good morning, Jessica Salome, Public Works. Gonna share my screen here. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
This is in regards to Public Works Order number 210584 for excavating without a permit for the location of 200 Folsom Street. On Tuesday, April 30th, around 1 p.m., an inspector responded to a complaint regarding construction work occurring at 200 Folsom Street. Upon arrival, the inspector found street excavation occurring and issued notice of violation 20560 to Gyron Construction for excavating without a permit for $10,000. Permit number 24 SSP 00013 was posted on site. However, street space permit is for occupancy only in the public right of way, and it's not permit excavation work. Permit number 24S 00045 was applied for on April 8th, but was not approved until as of April 30th due to the need for other city agencies to review the project. The permit was later approved on May 7th, 2024. This is the appeal letter from Gyron Construction. And we have a copy of the notice of violation. Photos from the site where Gyron excavated the street within the public right of way without a permit from the initial inspection of April 30th. And you can see here, this is for the street space permit that was approved on April 8th. For street space occupancy only. And this is for the sewer permit that was approved on May 7th. Street space. Detail of a street space. What it is allowed for. What you can and cannot do when a street space permit is needed. And the code sections. Details of a side sewer permit. What is allowed. And the code sections and restoration sections. And that is it for me.
Thank you. Is the applicant or appellant here to speak? Yoing?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yes.
Can you mute us? Yeah, sorry, we've got some feedback here. Give me 1 second.
I'll just get out.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I've got Mauricio here, who is the project manager on this project. Just to give you an idea of what happened and how we ended up in this situation.
Okay.
We're a subcontractor in the Hunter's View, Bayview. No, our company, we're a small business subcontractor in the Hunters Point Bayview district. I'm a new employee to the company, and this is my first project. Working in San Francisco and over 10 years. So I was a little confused by the permit process. There was no malintent. I just wanted to clarify that. I thought that we had the right permit to be doing that trench. So I requested a permit application for the side sewer permit because I was asking the general contractor for some help with that, and they told me which one to apply for, so I did. And then there were some questions that came back to me, and we answered them, and then I heard it. I got an email from the general contractor, and they said that they got a permit. And I thought it was the permit that we had been working on, but it was a different permit that they had received, and that was the street space permit. So I thought that we had the go ahead to go do the work when we were out there, and I didn't learn that I had the wrong permit, or I didn't have both permits that I needed until we received the notice of violation, and because we were requesting inspections on the sewer lateral, and when we requested the inspection, somebody came out and gave us the notice of violation. That's where I learned that we did not have the correct permit. So I just wanted to clarify again that there was no, it was definitely an accident. There was no malintent here on our end.
Okay. Did you get a hard copy of the permit? Or was it an electronic copy?
When we finally received the permit, it was in an email, and it was an electronic copy.
And you got that from Swinnerton, you said?
No,
No, I got that from DPW.
Okay. Before you start the work, what permit did you receive?
The permit that we received when we started the work, that was the street space permit, and that we received from Swinnerton.
Mm-hmm.
so there was just some confusion as to what permit, this is Owen. There was some confusion with Mauricio and Swinnerton as to what permit was received. We got an email on a Friday that we received the permit, we are good to go. And Mauricio took that on as that we got the permits we needed and we're good to start work. Not realizing that the side sewer lateral permit had not been approved yet. So that's where the confusion was. I personally have been doing work in the city for a long time. I've never had an issue with permits. We always do things the right way. And so this was just an oversight on my end. And we're just trying to make sure we do the right thing always. And so this was just an accident.
Yeah. And knowing that you've been working in the city, you're pretty well aware of the different permits that BSM issues. When you received the permit from Swinnerton, you didn't take a look at the heading to see what kind of permit it was, that it needed to be activated, and also that the permit came from Swinnerton. I believe for the side sewer permit, that was something that your company applied for, right?
Yeah, so we applied for it. Mauricio was working with, I was out of town myself at the time, and I normally help with all the permits because I'm most familiar with it. Mauricio came from San Jose. He's always worked in San Jose. And so he wasn't aware of the process that we typically go through. Swinnerton sent an email. It was just an email. There was no permit attached to it. We just got an email, or maybe it was a text message, say, hey, the permit's approved, we're good to go. That's what he acted on.
Oh, so you didn't get the permit from Swinnerton. You didn't see a permit. It was just verbal, basically verbal okay to go ahead.
That's correct.
And you went with that.
Yeah.
So, but
the
fact that your company applied for the side sewer permit, but did not get an okay from the city. And you went on an okay, some sort of okay from Swinnerton, and you proceeded.
Right.
Okay. How long have you been working in the city, Mauricio?
I started here at a few months ago, say at very end of February 2024.
Is anyone giving you any supervision, or you're just, I don't know how the reporting structure is?
That would typically be me, because I've been the one that's always been applying for permits in the city.
Okay.
I just wasn't in the country when this was all happening.
Okay,
Yeah, and for the record, I have you know, a lot of experience doing projects. I just don't have the experience doing projects in San Francisco.
okay. Last question, hopefully. Was there a reason why you acted on Swinnerton's okay to proceed?
Usually the permits, I mean, in a lot of other jurisdictions that I've worked in, the permits that we get are usually provided by the general contractor. Usually outside of San Francisco, usually the subcontractors don't handle the permits, usually done by the GC. And the GC doesn't always give us the permit. They just say, we have the permit to go do the work, you guys can start. So it's just kind of, I guess what I'm used to is the person that I'm working for handles the permit, and we're following direction from them. I'm not used to turning in the permit application and having the permit on behalf of my own company.
Yeah.
So in here, I didn't, I turned it in because I know about the work, but I just kind of thought that, okay, well, it looks like Swinnerton kind of took it from there, and looks like they got the permit and we can go start work. And it just happened to be the Friday before we were supposed to start, that Monday. So it just seemed like, okay, well, it looks like they got the permit right on time, and we're okay. So I wrongfully assumed that it was the right permit.
Okay. Is there anything in your subcontract with Swinnerton where they specifically tell you that you're responsible for all permits?
No, we excluded permits.
Okay,
So in this instance, our to get this permit was an additional cost to the client.
okay. Are you at liberty to share that with me?
Yeah, we can find it.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you can send it to Jessica and then she'll forward it to me.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, just so you know, our internet in our whole building is down for the next 4 hours.
Okay.
I would have to follow up later on, today or tomorrow possibly.
Okay, all right. If you can get it to me by 5 p.m., that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
You're okay with us just sharing our exclusion section of the contract, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comments? Okay, seeing none. I will now close the item and I will make my recommendation to the director. Next item, hearing order 210623. May I have Public Works make its presentation? Oh, you're on mute.
Muted?
Oh, here you know.
Okay, great. 1 second here. Okay, can you see my slides? Okay.
Not yet.
Let me try again.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Right.
Okay, good morning. My name is Shauna Gates. I'm a project manager with the Public Works Infrastructure Task Force. I'll be presenting order 210623 for the Mission Rock Phase 1 project. Presenting the developer's request to defer completion of certain public improvements until after a notice of completion and acceptance action by the Board of Supervisors. Mission Rock is a master plan development that will be constructed in phases, and phase 1 is shown in green. In October of 2020, Public Works issued a street improvement permit for the Mission Rock Phase 1, and work on the public improvements began. The subdivider is required through their public improvement agreement to complete horizontal public improvements, generally including new sewers, storm drain, water and electrical lines, roadways, streetlights, trees, landscaping, and pedestrian facilities. The public improvement agreement defines procedures for how Public Works will deem the work complete through notice of completion and pursue formal acceptance of improvements by the Board of Supervisors. As shown in this table, the subdivider is requesting approval to defer certain items beyond the notice of completion. These items are shown in green. And then certain items are being requested for deferral beyond the formal acceptance action by the Board of Supervisors. These are shown in blue to enable the project to receive a final notice of completion and proceed to the Board of Supervisors for a formal acceptance. Deferred improvements will be verified complete by the Public Works Director once completed, anticipated in November or December of this year. This is a location map showing the location of the deferred physical improvements. Of course, we're not showing the location of, there are some administrative documents that are also requesting to be deferred. Those are not shown on this map, but all of the improvements in the project, with exception of those shown in this red dashed box, will be completed prior to introduction at the Board of Supervisors. So we're looking at in the next couple months. And then the traffic signal improvements will not be completed until later this year. There have been delays to procurement and coordination with city departments to ensure that the improvements installed are in accordance with the city's design intent. And so there's been some delays in being able to get the signals completed. Those are anticipated to be installed in November of this year. The deferral, these deferrals require approval of a formal exception request because of some definitions in what we call the subdivision regulations. The subdivision regulations Appendix A, Section 7D, states the city shall only consider full, complete, and functional public streets for purposes of city maintenance and responsibility, which we consider the acceptance by the Board of Supervisors. The subdivider is asking for the notice of completion and acceptance prior to completion of these deferred improvements, so a formal exception request is required. The process for approving these formal exceptions requests are outlined in the subdivision regulations and Section 1712 of the subdivision code. And there's several criteria that must be met, including ensuring that applying the certain codes would create practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships on the project, that the deferrals would not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious. The deferrals are not contrary to the project documents or city regulations, and the deferrals are not in violation of the Subdivision Map Act. Public Works has reviewed the requested deferrals and confirms the requirements of the Subdivision Code Section 1712 shown above have been met. In addition to the exceptions required in accordance with the subdivision code and regulations, the tentative map conditions of approval for this project, number 21, stated that a notice of completion shall not be requested on a portion of facilities. Because the subdivider seeks to modify or defer their compliance with this condition of approval on the tentative map, the subdivision regulations excerpted below or on this slide requires a formal request for exceptions be submitted and then granted by the Public Works Director following a public hearing. Public Works recommends approval of the requested deferred work subject to the proposed conditions as discussed on the following slides. Public Works has consulted with and obtained approval and support from impacted city agencies, including the City Attorney's Office, Public Utilities Commission, and SFMTA, and recommends that the Director grant the 14 exceptions requested and allow deferral of this work beyond the final notice of completion and acceptance action, subject to certain conditions, understanding that Public Works will sign off on the deferred work once it's completed. On this slide, you'll see you'll first see general conditions that will generally be applied to the deferred work, and then additional specific conditions that would be imposed on exceptions are shown in subsequent slides. So generally, The director will retain security equivalent to 100% of the deferred work. The subdivider, if there's any physical work incomplete, so missing sidewalk flags or in that nature, the subdivider will maintain an accessible path of travel around any incomplete work to ensure that the walking surface is safe for the public. And then the subdivider will coordinate a final inspection with the city, complete any remaining testing, and resolve any punch list work before Public Works will sign off on the deferral. Some additional exceptions, some additional conditions that we're proposing to impose upon these exceptions are underlined in the right column here. So for exception 1, the deferral is the completion of the traffic signal and connected streetlights, as well as spares related to those and as-built. So in addition to the general conditions that are imposed upon these exceptions, or also would require that the subdivider maintain any temporary lights on 3rd Street intersections currently installed until the permanent lights are operational, that they would provide a full warranty once the work is complete, and that if required by MTA, a pre-acceptance operating agreement would be executed prior to MTA operation of the signals. So that's a decision by MTA, but the agreement has been drafted and is in final form. For exception number 2, which is a deferral of recorded notice of completion, lien notifications to subcontractors and mechanics lien guarantee, the subdivider would submit these documents prior to final sign-off. Exceptions 3 and 4 are just subject to the general conditions described in the previous slide. Exception number 5, there's 2 master encroachment permits that are currently being worked on between the subdivider and the city. So the specific condition here would just be that the subdivider and city complete these documents prior to consideration of the acceptance legislation by the Board of Supervisors. For exception number 6, this is related to spare parts that are not included in exception number 1. So these are additional spare parts, relatively minor. But the condition here specific to this exception is that would be that the subdivider submits and city agencies confirm receipt of the required spares prior to final sign-off. Exception number 7 is a deferral of executing the corporate guarantee for extended warranty. This can't be executed until after the notice of completion is granted because it begins at the date of notice of completion. And so the subdivider is required to provide the final form prior to notice of completion and then execute the document prior to acceptance by the Board of Supervisors. Exception number 8 is deferral of commissioning of streetlights on portions of the streets. So it's subject to the general conditions discussed previously, and then also that the subdivider would maintain adequate lighting levels for safe public access. Exception number 9 is deferral of, there was a PUC requested punch list item that was not the part of the original street improvement permit work. And feasibility is currently being studied to confirm whether what was requested can be achieved. So the condition here would be that the subdivider would complete the requested punch list item or obtain a PUC variance prior to sign off on this deferral. Exception number 10 is deferral of some punch list work for above ground, what we call street rooms, which is like street furniture mounted to the sidewalk. And these are subject to the general conditions. And street room number 5 has been deleted from the project, so that will be removed from final as-built prior to sign off of this deferral item. Exception number 11 is actually MTA performed work, requesting deferral additional time for this because MTA has indicated that they have limited resources and may not be able to complete the work prior to notice of completion. So the conditions here are that the developer would maintain temporary signage and striping in a manner that protects public safety until MTA can complete their final work in this location. And then the SFMTA would complete remaining striping prior to final sign-off of this item. Exception number 12 is deferral of the as-built plan letter. So the specific condition here is that the developer will submit and city agencies will approve the final record drawings in PDF and CAD versions, incorporating all the completion the completed deferred work prior to sign off on this item. The developer has submitted a version of as-built that is final without the deferred work that will be completed later this year. So they will supplement and incorporate that into the final version once the deferred work is complete. And then exceptions 13 and 14 are just subject to the standard conditions. So the subdivider needs additional time to complete installation of the wayfinding signage and schedule final inspections with city agencies. And then final testing of a stormwater treatment area within the park adjacent to the phase 1 area also needs additional time. And so those will both be completed prior to introduction at the Board of Supervisors. In addition to these 14 exception requests or deferral requests, the subdivider is also asking for a formal time extension. So the public improvement agreement specifies completion milestones that the work must be completed by, which for this project was 3 years from when the map recorded, and the map recorded in June of 2020. So the improvements needed to be completed by June of last year in order to comply with the public improvement agreement requirements. There's been various delays, and so the subdivider is requesting formal time extension through the end of this year to complete improvements. So here's just kind of a anticipated schedule of events that are related to this exception request. So today we're having the director's hearing for exceptions. After the hearing officer would finalize their recommendation and the order would be presented for director signature. If requested exceptions are granted by the director, then Public Works would grant the notice of completion minus the approved deferrals. Then the developer would complete the deferred work and indicated conditions that they've committed to complete prior to introduction at the Board of Supervisors, and Public Works would sign those off. We anticipate those being complete by the end of July. And then the board would conditionally accept improvements subject to completion of the remaining deferred work, which is really just the traffic signal work and related as-built. And so the board would conditionally accept legislation effective anticipated in October, and then the developer would complete remaining deferred work and indicated conditions in November, December of this year, and Public Works would confirm them complete. That concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions at this time. I also have a representative from the subdivider Mission Rock Partners, Julianne Pancoast, on the call in case there's specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any questions at this moment. Julian, would you like to speak on this item?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Don't have any further comments. I think Donna did a great job of presenting the requested deferral items. Thank you.
Agreed. So I don't have any questions. You don't have any comments. I don't see anyone from the public. I think that is it for this item. I will close the item. I'll make my recommendations to the director. This hearing is now closed.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
you.
Officer Chan. I'm going
Thank
to go
you.
ahead and stop recording.
Sure.